Imagine having to have a conversation with grown adults about their BO at work or in school. Imagine having to let people know that they no longer have a job, that they've been let go. Imagine having to have conversations with people about inappropriate behavior, inappropriate language, about how, maybe using the word Nazi in the way that you think it's funny is not. Imagine having to let people know that they didn't get the promotion or pass a test, or having to let someone know that they failed a class, or speaking to a vendor or other company and saying that we will no longer be working together in partnership. These, amongst the many other kinds of conversations I have had in the past, were all ones I did not want to have. Now, I was kind of seen as the bad news bear in some ways, and I didn't like doing it. I didn't know how to. And I learned on the fly, if you will. And over the years also, I learned a few techniques here and there. And the reality is that having these crucial conversations are important because they're going to crop up. They don't have to crop up in your work. They may, but they also may crop up in your relationships with your neighbors, with people that you interact with socially. It could be someone on the bus, someone you see at the parent meetings, or whatever it is, the sports team. Crucial conversations happen all the time. It could be something where you have to ask a friend to repay a long overdue loan, or talking to a client or friend about their alcohol or drug abuse. Giving your boss feedback, critiquing a colleague's work, asking a client or whatnot to keep certain commitments, asking for a promotion. That's a crucial conversation, right? Or a raise. A challenging one as a parent is talking to another parent about their child's behavior and how it's impacting your family, your child. And all of these have three things in common, or they all have at least one of these things, and that's what makes them a crucial conversation. So, before I jump in, welcome to Seared, Stories from the Stove podcast. My name is Paul Silva. We are here. We're jamming. We're jazzing. We are ready to rock and roll. Not to date this, but this is the day after a big election outside of this country of Canada. So not here. We don't have that kind of firepower to set the world ablaze in terms of interest. But part of me wanted to talk about a little bit about that, but I'm going to hold off. Too soon. There's a lot of people feeling the feels right now. And I feel that it's just important for people to feel what they're feeling, to vent, to cry, to complain, or maybe people are celebrating. There are people who are happy with where things are going right now. And every feeling is valid wherever it is in the spectrum. And however way the vote may have gone, there have been a lot of unhappy people. And that's just the gist of it. So I'll visit that maybe next week. But for now, and this kind of ties in a way because, there are families out there who people have different political opinions. And there may be some crucial conversations that have to happen within families or friendships or partnerships, social situations. So this episode may be of vast importance for you. That's not the word I was looking for, but we'll go with that. Or relatability. Maybe, that's not it. Anyway, I'll get a thesaurus and look it up. So what I want to talk to you is about how to have crucial conversations. Now, I mentioned there's three things that tend to differentiate a crucial conversation from a quote unquote regular conversation. And that is, the first one's high stakes. Like, this is not just talking about the weather or, a game of Monopoly or something like that. There's high stakes involved. And however way you want to see that. The other one is strong emotions. Something maybe that's polarizing, or something that brings really intense emotions from you, and then opposing opinions, and those can be intense ones. We're not talking about I like chocolate, you like strawberry, like something where there's a real amount of energy that is there, like really strong opposing forces. So one or all three can be involved in a crucial conversation. And there's different ways we approach them. Sometimes we avoid them, right? Raise your hand if you're an avoider. I'm raising mine. And the problem with that is it delays the inevitable. And in the meantime, it can cause damage to relationships or businesses or whatever, because you're not having the conversation. If you're in the kitchen and there's someone who's not performing well, or you're in the office, whatever, that is going to impact the team. Also, by not telling that person, you're doing them a disservice, right? So that's one of the problems with avoiding, is you're prolonging the pain. You don't need to do that. The other way we approach is we can't face them. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to sit down and talk to blah, 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 and talk about how they stink and they need to put deodorant on. But then we handle it poorly, which is why I suggest you listen to this whole podcast. And doing that can cause even more damage, because now you're going to have another conversation to patch up the mess you made with that one, while still having to manage the original issue. And that to me, that's even worse than avoiding in some ways. The other thing that we do and we can do is face them and handle them well, where we clean things up right away. And that's what I want you to step away with after listening to this podcast, that you have a clear understanding of how to approach someone and have the conversation that's necessary for both of you, everyone involved, to walk away with feeling good. I don't like using that word, but you know what I mean. Or satisfied, or impactful. Because sometimes we're going to hear things we don't want to hear. We may not feel great at that moment, but something that is helpful. Back in the day, in the kitchens, and in some places may be like that, nothing like this really existed. Everything was like the chefs would scream at you, or they would be really awkward about telling you things. And these are important skills to have wherever you are, as a parent, as a leader, whatever. And when we fail at having these challenging conversations, our lives can be affected in so many ways. And so that's why it's so critical in having these difficult conversations. And, how do you know when it's crucial or when it's time? Well, one is like, how you feeling? And what I mean is, like, in your body. Do you know, like, when you approach, like, there's that person maybe that when you think of or you go near, like, your stomach starts churning. There's a tightness in your chest, right? So you're getting physical cues. Or maybe emotionally, you shut down around them, or you get heated up right away. Like, they're just they breathe and you hate them, or they get on your nerves. Or behaviorally, you maybe raise your voice a lot more at them. You point your finger, maybe you lean in a little harder on them, like you push them harder. And those are signs that maybe it's time to have that conversation. Now, before we jump in, I want to share something called the fool's choice. Okay? The fool's choice is this. The fool's choice is when you think about a conversation that you need to have, and you feel that there's only two outcomes, and both of them are bad. They're not useful. It's like, let's say you have to talk to a partner about your relationship, you may think either I have to damage this relationship by being honest, or I have to suffer in silence. It's like I have to salute or I have to stay mute. And a lot of people fall into that. Like another example would be your boss. Let's say they hold a meeting and they share the plan that they're so excited and proud of. And you know in your mind, oh, this is not going to work. This is awful. And you know it's going to suck your team's time and resources and yours as well. And it's just not going to be good time or money spent. And so you feel you're stuck. You have the fool's choice between saying something and perhaps upsetting or embarrassing your boss, or you're just going to quietly seethe knowing that you're about to waste a lot of time and resources. Fool's choice, because both do not serve anyone. And so I invite you to step away from the fool's choice and realize that it's not black and white. It's not either or, right? There's and. We can use the word and in there. Like, look for the middle ground. This can be true and this can also be true. And you can have a conversation that doesn't compromise your feelings while at the same time not hurting the other person. Now, we cannot control how they receive the conversation. That is not up to us, but we can approach it in ways that can help mitigate embarrassment or upsetness. So how do you do it? How do you do this, Paul, Mr. Magic Man, with your little microphone? Oh, my goodness. I need a coffee soon. That's what I just realized. Or maybe not. Maybe I had too much coffee. We'll figure it out. All right, how to set these up. Okay, so if you feel like you're in a position where you need to have this crucial conversation, first and foremost, set up a time and place where you're both undisturbed, undistracted. Like not while the TV's on, not while they're in the middle of tending to the kids, not while they're rushing off to a meeting, not while there's a rush happening, on the like whatever it is, find a time and place away that you can be as private as possible. And then also check in with yourself. What do you want from this conversation? What do you want for yourself? What do you want for the other person? What is like the intention? And if you're coming at it from a place of, I want to win, or I want to punish this person, or I just want to keep I just want them to be quiet. It's okay. I'll just do whatever you say. If it's all of that, then you are not ready to have the conversation, period. So come in with the intention that you are looking to solve and you're looking for the best possible outcome for both of you. And now you can start with, in terms of what to say. This is not going to be, step by step and what words to use. That's on you. You can figure that out. But what I would say is you can start with some context, because you don't want to go in there guns a-blazing. Think about this. You've been thinking about this conversation for some time. You've had dreams about it. It keeps you up at night. You're having a hard time eating because it makes you feel ill. You've been thinking and swirling and spinning in this vortex in your head for the longest time. They have no idea. So you come in like a tornado, and it throws them off. So you want to start with a little context, and it could be something like, "Hey, I was thinking about, the meeting last night and how it left me feeling, and I didn't want to ruminate on this, so I just wanted to have this sit down and with you and just share blah 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 blah." So you can give them a little context, just saying, "I've been feeling a little unease with our relationship. I feel like something is just a little off, and I really just wanted to sit down and share this with you and see what you think." And so again, set it up and then share your perspective. So this is where you are doing the I talk, like I this, I that. You are not saying you this, and that sounds like blaming. I feel like when you say this, da da da. Now, what little tips here? One is absolute, avoid absolutes. So like absolutes are like always and never and everyone and no one. You can say like often or frequently or most cases. If you're talking to someone, let's say about poor performance, for example, be specific and say, instead of like, you're always late, bleh, you can say, I noticed that you were late 6 times in the last 3 weeks. Be specific, be neutral. Soften your assertions. So come at it with curiosity rather than blame. And so, hey, I'm curious. I was wondering, I'm wondering, as opposed to you should. And again, switching to the I statements, because when you use I statements, I feel like when you come in late, I feel like, the team feels disrespected, or they feel like their time isn't being valued. So it's the impact that they're having. And they cannot argue with that. But if you say, you're always late, it gets them on the defensive. And also, you don't know what they're thinking. So again, it's kind of like, be objective about them and subjective about you. So with them, you keep it neutral and sterile and fact-based. Whereas with you, that's where you share your feelings. That's where you share your perceptions and interpretations. So they have a window, if you will, into what you're thinking. Like, I feel frustrated when... And it's about being observant. You're not attacking their character. Like, you're a jerk, as opposed to, you interrupted me whenever I tried to make a point earlier. Do you feel the difference there? It's a huge difference. It's a massive difference. Like, if someone said, you're a jerk, you're always interrupting people, as opposed to, hey, you interrupted me on the last meeting whenever I tried to make points. And I felt very frustrated, and I felt like I wasn't being heard. Completely different energy around that. But you're saying the same thing in a different way. And then once you get it, once you share everything, then it's listening. Active listening. Like listening to understand rather than listening to respond. Listen to what they're saying. Feel the energy. Look at their body language. Huge. All the nonverbal cues. And they might get defensive. They might have certain things they say. That's okay. You can validate as they go along. Yeah, that it makes sense that, you would feel Everything is information, right? Their emotions, all that. And what I would say with this too is, as you kind of listen and you're going back and forth, avoid the why questions. Like, why did you do that? Why did you think that was okay? Because even if your intention is to be curious, the why questions, and we do this in coaching, we usually avoid the why questions because it sounds accusatory. No matter, you have to phrase it in such a way, and your body language and your intonation has to be just spot on for them not to feel like it's an accusation. The other thing I would say is keep your questions open-ended, which what that means is a closed-ended question is a yes or no answer. Did you go out last night past your curfew? Yes. As opposed to, why did you feel the need to sneak out last night? That's an open-ended question, and it invites more information. Now, again, someone may have the response. Don't listen to the attack. Listen to the information. I'll say that again. Don't listen to the attack. Listen to the information. If someone just starts spewing off and going off, ask yourself this. What if I hadn't heard the attack? What would I have heard? And by attack, I mean is like, oh, you think you're so great. You're talking like, and blah, 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 how dare you? And da, 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 da. That's the attack, because you're feeling attacked. If you feel like you have to defend yourself, you're being attacked, or you feel like you are. And I had this trouble, even in my late management years, certain things would just get me to pop off, just like, Argh. And I was talking to the director of HR. We were at a meeting. I said, how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you day in and day out? You have people coming in and chirping at you and da, da, da. And she just said, you have to take emotion out of it. That's it. Just look at the facts. Just look at the facts. Everything else you put out the window. You can be aware of how they're feeling. You can understand where they're coming from, but you can't take it on. And if things do get heated, just check in with yourself. Like, what do I really want here? Again, it's not to be right. If you're going in to be right or to make them pay, then you're going in with the wrong intentions, the wrong thing. One thing I've always done too is, and I share this with you, is to look for a common goal. So if you feel like you're like, and this is what they do in negotiations. I'm not an expert negotiator or anything, but you look for the common goal. And one of the things when I would talk to cooks, let's say, and I may have shared this in the podcast, so I tend to repeat. I'm a repeater, so take it for what it's worth. Is, when I would be talking to a cook, I would, let's say it's inappropriate actions or there's something, I would say, okay, what are we both here? What are we all here for? And it would come out like, we're here for the diner to have a great experience or the customer to have a great experience. Cool. Perfect. We're on the same page. Excellent. There's the foundation. And then everything around that, I would bring back to, okay, so when you do this, when you take off without telling anyone for 10 minutes to go for a smoke break, is that going towards the goal of the diner having a great experience? Now, that's a closed question. You can say, how does that affect the diner's experience? There's an open question. And that's how I would bring it back. Bring it back to a common goal. And it's okay to and one thing too is just because you acknowledge them and understand them, acknowledgement doesn't mean agreement. I hear that you get frustrated, that you feel like I'm not allowing you breaks, so you take yourself out for a break because you feel like that's the only way you'll be able to be calm and relax. Doesn't mean I condone it. I just acknowledge it. And so all of this, as you're having this conversation, invite them into the solution, float out your solution, right? And don't make an assumption about how they may be feeling. That's when you step into that space, what they're hearing is that you're not listening. So these are, there's so much more. There's actually a great book called Crucial Conversations. There's other books out there that I've used in terms of having those. And, Simon Sinek, he had said that when he would have those kind of conversations, he'd always suggested that you can say like, hey, I'm nervous about having this conversation, like being straight up. I don't necessarily want to have this conversation, but I'm a little nervous. So I just want to share that with you. And that's okay. Because just because you know how to have a crucial conversation doesn't mean that you're not kind of scared of it. So many times I've had to have crucial conversation. I'm like, oh God, can't make this quick, or please, like, don't have a meltdown, or like I would have fear around it for sure. And anyone that says that they never have any fear around this, either is very, very practiced, or just has the temperament to do it, or they're just exaggerating a little bit. Because at some point, having any kind of crucial conversation, there's going to be some nerves, and that's okay. That's okay. So after all of this, what I would suggest to sort of wrap things up, because throughout this conversation, you've been communicating confidently, you've been communicating clearly, you're controlling your responses. Like, just think of those 3 C's. As you come up with a solution together, and if they can't do it, then you can suggest something, say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? And kind of co-create or have them take ownership a little bit, because they're more apt to do it, is just say, okay, so be very clear. Okay, so when we leave here, this is what's going to happen. And this is when it's going to happen by. Have a date. And this is when I'm going to follow up. And follow up. Don't just say you're going to follow up. Do it. I'm thinking of that Shia LaBeouf meme. Just do it. I don't know if you know. If you know what I'm talking about, if you know, you know. So the question is then, what areas in your life do you feel like you need to have crucial conversations? I've given you a little bit of a blueprint on how to have them. Again, it's not easy. And in all those years that I've had to have these like conversations, some were awkward, some I didn't do very well. But overall, I think I did well because I also had a lot of empathy and also felt for them. But one thing is being overly kind. And by overly kind, I mean you're not saying what you really need to say. Like, you don't want to protect them so much that nothing gets said, nothing gets done. Or this is the other thing that happens, and I'm going to kind of finish off very shortly, is you say the things and like, okay, and then you backtrack. Okay, but really, okay, it's not, yeah, okay, so what I said, it's not that bad. You know, I just have to say it, or my boss told me I had to say this. Yeah, no, I think it's okay, but you know, the big boss, stop that shit now. You said what you said and stick with it. Let them have their response. It's okay. You're not going to die. You're okay. And I guarantee those people, when they, have their little whatever reaction and they come back, almost all of them are like they respect you. And I'm saying you're not doing this to have respect, but they respect you because you said the thing. We know what it's like to just grin and bear it, and it's awful. And people don't know. People deserve to know what is what. And especially if you're practicing boundaries, especially if you're looking to really step into your own space and power, you need to have these conversations. It's not going to happen every day, but you may have to have smaller versions of them throughout the day. So, how you feeling about that? I guarantee that as soon as I started talking about crucial conversations, or maybe at some point throughout this, you have identified at least 1 to 3 people you need to speak to. And I invite you to create those conversations. Set an appointment today with these people. You don't have to have the conversation today. If you can, that's cool. But ask them, hey, I'd love to chat. How's Monday for you? And if they say, well, what's it about? Say, I just want to share some feedback, or there's whatever, you can come up with something. But I invite you to do that, because the longer you hold off, the worse things are going to get. So, I wish you well on your chats. I would love if you could share this. This is an important one. This is a great little how-to tutorial, if you, in some way. So share this with someone who you know or think is struggling in having these conversations. Please share, comment, like, subscribe to the podcast. And also, hey, check out my email. I've sent out a few. I'm getting great responses. I'm really, it's good stuff. I'm not kidding. You'll find the link. I'm just sharing of myself, because as I'm pulling back and retracting and conserving my energy and really directing it in the places it needs to go, this email community is about 150. We're building it up, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. So if you're listening and you're not part of it, you'll see a link. Please sign up. I don't inundate you. I'm not spamming you. It's just me being me, and it's the only place that I share certain things. So I think it would be really groovy, and you'll also find out what's going on. I've already started sharing. Some new cool things are happening. And then, of course, there's You Are Gumbo, which may be changing. But I have some really lovely little inspirational, motivational films that I've been putting up there lately. And I'd love for you to check that out. All right. Enough of the shilling out. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, week, month, year. We're just I'm covering ground. I'm covering all the bets. All right. Kitchen's closed now. Scram.